While the motivated person usually moves physically toward or away from something, the emotional person is moved internally by psychologically significant situations. The result is a complex pattern of changes involving feelings, thoughts, behavior, and physiological arousal, a pattern we know as emotion. For Charles Darwin, emotions were innate, not learned. They were evolutionary remnants of previous adaptive behaviors, such as fighting. He argued that some of our facial expressions are similar to those of animals in comparable situations. At birth, and soon after, all infants show similar expressions of emotion. It isn't until later that we learn from our environment when to express and when to inhibit our emotions, depending on a number of social factors. Psychologist Robert Plutchik has proposed that we are born with 8 basic emotions, depicted here in the inner circle. These 8 are made up of 4 pairs of opposites, such as joy and sadness, or anger and fear. All the other emotions depicted in the outer circle are blends of the basic ones. For example, love is a combination of joy and acceptance, while remorse is a blend of disgust and sadness. Our emotions also seem to be universal. In a study conducted by psychologist Paul Ekman, photographs of different expressions were shown to people from a variety of cultures. The subjects then identified the emotions associated with these expressions. The results revealed a remarkable similarity in the way people decode emotions, whether they are college students in the United States or tribespeople in New Guinea. When psychologists talk about emotion and motivation, they always distinguish clearly between them. But the truth is that we tend to experience them together. Moreover, they are often subject to the same influences. For instance, why we do things, motivation, and how we feel about them, emotion, are both affected by the degree of our optimism and pessimism, or in psychological terms, our explanatory style, how we explain our successes and failures to ourselves, with an optimistic style or a pessimistic style. For the past 10 years, Martin Seligman of the University of Pennsylvania has studied why some people succeed while others fail because of their explanatory styles.
We began to look at people's explanatory style, the habits they had for explaining tragedy in their life. Why do bad events occur? There are 3 dimensions we focused on. The first dimension is external, internal. Is the cause of this bad event something about me or something about other people or circumstances? That's the least important dimension in the theory. The 2 crucial dimensions are stable and global. Is this bad event caused by something that stays around in time, stable, or something that goes away in time? So, for example, if you fail an examination, you might say, I'm stupid. Well, stupidity abides. It's something highly stable. On the other hand, you might say, I had a hangover. I was exhausted. Exhaustion comes and goes. Hangovers fade in time. Unstable. The third dimension, specific, global, is the cause of my failure something about just this one situation or something that's going to undermine everything I do. So if you're rejected by someone you love, you might say, I'm worthless. I'm unlovable. Being worthless is global. It hurts everything you do. On the other hand, you might say, she was in a bad mood. Well, it's just her. It's not going to affect you in many situations. So the 3 dimensions, internal, stable, and global, add up to optimism and pessimism in the following way. Those of you who habitually say, it's me, it's going to last forever, it's going to undermine everything I do, are pessimists. Those of you who believe you did it to me, it's going away quickly, and it's just this one situation, are the people we call optimists. There are 3 general areas that we explore optimism and pessimism in. First is depression, the second is achievement, and the third is health. In all 3, we ask over one's life, do these habits of the heart, do these habits of optimism and pessimism, one, make you more or less susceptible to becoming depressed? Secondly, do they make you achieve below or above your potential? And third, do optimists and pessimists have different physical health and even different length of life? Let's take the first area in depression. If you take young children, we work with 4th to 6th graders, and measure their depression level and their explanatory style at different points as they're growing up, we find that those kids who start off as pessimists, even if they're not depressed now, by the 5th and 6th grade are the ones who become depressed. Those kids who start out depressed, but who are optimists anyway, are the ones who get better. We took the freshman class a few years ago. When they entered, we gave them the attributional style questionnaire. We then looked at their first semester's grades compared to what they're predicted to get. The people who do better than expected are optimists. The people who do worse than expected are the pessimists. So in academic achievement, you can predict from the combination of so-called talent or intelligence and optimism what the performance is going to be. Studies of animals showed that when animals were helpless, they grew tumors at a greater rate. Their immune system didn't do what it should. We began to wonder about the same question in humans. Are optimistic humans, that is, people who are better capable of coping with defeat and helplessness, do they lead healthier lives than non-optimistic humans? And what we found, at age 30 and age 40, there's no effect. Optimism and pessimism has no effect on health. What controls health is how healthy you were at age 25. But starting at my age, starting in about 45, in middle age, the pessimists start to get the chronic illnesses associated with middle age. The optimists tend not to. And this trend continues into the 60s. This tells us that pessimists are more at risk for chronic illness over the course of middle age than are optimists. If pessimism is a lifelong habit that's so insidious to health, achievement, and depression, where do we get it from? Where do we get pessimism from? There are 3 shallow hints about where we get it from. One, your mother's pessimism looks like yours. We seem to learn it at our mother's breast. Secondly, the kinds of criticisms our teachers make of us, important adults make of us when we're in grade school, seem to shape the optimism or pessimism we have. And third, the reality of the first major event that occurs when you're a youngster may shape our pessimism or optimism. So for people whose mother dies before they're 11 years old, it turns out they have a more hopeless, more pessimistic explanatory style. And the reason seems to be that when your mother dies when you're 7 years old, that's a stable and global loss. She goes away, she never comes back. That may become the cookie cutter in which you look at tragedy in the future.
So we've gone from sex and romantic love to the joys of success and the agonies of failure. Just a few of the areas studied by psychologists who seek to understand the basic whys of animal and human nature, why we act and feel as we do. Even our brief exploration of motivation and emotion reveals the intricate interplay of nature and nurture, of biology and behavior, of mind and body.